My speech is a little high. This is a little historical for you, so I hope that you will stick with me here. I had an abortion. I rarely consider what my life would be like without that choice. But what I think about often are all of the terrible examples of what happens when governments start legislating human bodies and outlawing a person's right to choose. On the one end of the spectrum, you have the one-child policy in China and hundreds of millions of forced abortions and adoptions. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Decree 770 from Romania. The draft opinion from our Supreme Court of the United States is steering us well towards Romanian territory. Decree 770 was enacted in Romania in October 1966, essentially outlawing abortion, except in very specific circumstances. Because even they had enough sense to allow it in cases of rape or incest. The communist dictator at the time, Nicolae Ceausescu, his wife Elena, and their regime implemented the decree due to the belief that a larger population would create a more robust economy. Spoiler alert, it did not do that. But Decree 770 did ban abortion for all women in the country under the age of 40 and mandated they each have a minimum of 4 children. It was forced motherhood to the extreme extent. The pill had never been allowed in Romania, and other modern means of contraception were essentially unavailable, so abortion was the key to family planning. Before October 1966, abortion was legal and available at any local clinic on a walk-in basis for a fee of about $2. As you can imagine, once the decree was implemented, there was an enormous spike in the birth rate. Then it dropped and continued dropping. 10 years later, it was as low as it had ever been before the decree was enacted because the maternal mortality rate tripled. So when you outlaw abortion, you only outlaw safe abortion. And America already has a very bad track record with maternal mortality. So, forced parenthood plus zero investment or tangible resources to support those families led to over 10,000 Romanian children in orphanages and state institutions by 1990. In 1990, after Ceausescu was removed from power, Romania opened up a bit more to the west. ABC 2020 produced a story about the Romanian orphans and the orphanages. The world's eyes were open to the horrors inflicted upon those children, which led to a massive adoption exodus and severe generational trauma. One Western couple who saw this news story and was inspired to adopt were my in-laws. My husband is adopted. He was born in Sibiu, Romania in spring 1991. He was his mother's last child. She gave birth at the age of 13 in 1981 and had 5 more children in fairly rapid succession until she was finally able to get her tubes tied in 1991 after my husband was born. Whether or not she would have chosen to be a mother at such a young age is neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is she had zero choice, zero bodily autonomy, and never had access to birth control or contraception until she was 23 years old, and a mother to 6 children. Ultimately, she made the wildly difficult decision to relinquish her parental rights, and my husband was never in an orphanage. But his story is a complete and total exception. Unlike the hundreds, over 1,000 people he's connected to, mostly distant cousins on a genetic testing site, we were able to find his family pretty easily. But these cousins have reached out to him asking if he can help find their families or share resources because they have no information. And I tell you all of this today because the Supreme Court made a little footnote about a short supply of domestically available infants. Adoption is not the alternative to abortion. Adoption is the alternative to parenthood. okay? Abortion is the alternative to being pregnant. And I say all this because it's very personal, obviously, and the effects of Decree 770 are being felt in that country very much today. Within the country, it greatly burdened Romania's education and medical systems, and in a few more years, it will impact the care of the elderly as that population ages and retires. Beyond Romania's borders, there are lost children. There are children who may never know where they come from or ever have the chance to meet a single genetic relative. And the traumatized families left to wonder where their children wound up. Decree 770 is an exceptional example of what we should avoid at all costs. We are walking straight down a path to authoritarianism with this draft opinion, and we need to heed the lessons of history. Motherhood should absolutely be a choice. The Supreme Court is absolutely insane, and we don't elect them. They do not represent us. We need to be lobbying our legislators to expand the court, pass legislation, support your local abortion funds, okay? We have to work together because they don't know what's going on, and they're very out of touch. Thank you very much.